Hello, and welcome to Career Connection Chat, where you state the career and we make the connection. As always, I'm your host, Seth Lawrence, Delaware Military Academy class of 2022. Love saying that. And welcome to Season 1, Military Careers and Life. In this episode, we'll be covering United States Marine Corps Special Operations Command, more specifically, the Marine Raider Regiment. Now, the United States Marine Corps was founded November 10th, 1775, but the Marine Raiders, well, that's a different story. Today's Raiders can trace their roots back to World War II predecessors, the Marine Raiders. The Marine Raiders were units established by the United States Marine Corps to conduct special amphibious light infantry warfare, particularly in landing rubber boats and operating behind enemy lines. Edson's Raiders of the 1st Marine Raiders Battalion and Carlson's Raiders of the 2nd Marine Raiders Battalion are said to be the first United States Special Operations Forces to form and to see combat in World War II. Today's Marine Raiders first saw the light through a pilot program called the Marine Corps Special Operations Command Detachment 1, also known as Det 1, in order to first assess the value of Marine Special Operations Forces permanently attached to the United States Special Operations Command. A small unit of 86 men commanded by Colonel Robert J. Coates, former commander of the 1st Force Reconnaissance Company, was activated on the 19th of June, 2003, and had its headquarters at Camp Delmar Boat Basin. In 2006, it was disbanded and succeeded by the Permanent Marine Corps Special Operations Command, or more commonly known as MARSOC. Det 1 deployed to Iraq with Navy SEALs from Naval Special Warfare Group 1 in 2004. Marines from that detachment took part in the Second Battle of Fallujah. In February 2006, the Marine Corps Special Operations Command was created at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. The 1st and 2nd Marine Corps Special Operations Battalions, or MSOB, were created along with the Marine Special Operations Advisor Group, MSOAG. The majority of the combat personnel assigned to the two battalions were drawn from the Marine Corps Force Recon community. In April 2009, the MSOAG was redesignated the Marine Special Operations Regiment, which then built a new level of command by making the 1st and 2nd MSOB subordinate, and redesignated MSOAG's Operational Marines the 3rd Marine Special Operations Battalion. In 2014, they would be called the Marine Raiders, but not yet officially until June of 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited to introduce our first guest on the show, Major Kyle Rodgers, United States Marine Corps. A native from Danbury, Connecticut, Major Kyle Rodgers commissioned in the United States Marine Corps in May 2010 after graduating from Roger Williams University in Bristol, Rhode Island. Following the completion of the Basic School and Infantry Officers course in Quantico, Virginia, he reported to the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment in Camp Pendleton, California. In 2015, Major Rodgers attended the Marine Special Operations Command, MARSOC, Individual Training Course, ITC, where he received the primary military occupational specialty of Special Operations Officer. Upon completion of ITC, he reported to the 1st Marine Raider Battalion in Camp Pendleton, California, where he was assigned as team commander. In 2017, Major Rodgers deployed to the southern Philippines with Special Operations Task Force 511.2 in support of Operation Pacific Eagle, Philippines. Upon his return from deployment, Major Rodgers was assigned as the Executive Officer of Marine Special Operations Company Bravo and returned to the southern Philippines to support counterterrorism operations. Major Rodgers reported to the Secretary of the Navy's office in June 2021, where he currently serves as the aide to the Secretary. Major Rodgers is a recipient of the 2018 Marine Special Operations Officer of the Year Award and is a graduate of the Expeditionary Warfare School. His personal decorations include the Meritorious Service Medal, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, and the Combat Action Ribbon. He is currently pursuing his Master of Arts degree at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 1 of our military careers. With me today is Major Kyle Rodgers, Marine Raider, Aide to Secretary of the Navy. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Seth. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy. We're all happy to have you. Let's start off with the first question. Could you give us a background of like who you are and how you got to where you are now?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Danbury, Connecticut, and I grew up there, went to college at a small liberal arts school up in Rhode Island called Roger Williams University. I, like most of you all, I had the propensity and the desire to serve something greater than myself growing up, and I knew that the military would ultimately be that place for me. So in college, I wrestled. I wrestled all 4 years, but in addition to that, I participated in the Marine platoon leaders development program. So I was shipped off to a platoon leaders course, and that's essentially designed to help train and assess individuals to take on the responsibility and the honor of serving as an officer in the Marine Corps. So I graduated from college in 2010 and commissioned as a second lieutenant. And the next step from there is I went to the very first course that Marine officers go to, and that's a 6-month course called the Basic School in Quantico, Virginia. If you ever met a Marine officer, he's gone through that course, right? And that is designed to teach every Marine officer how to be an officer, what it means to lead. Every Marine is a rifleman, so every Marine officer is a provisional rifle platoon commander. So you learn all the basic tactical skills, the leadership skills, and then also some of the administrative skills that play an important role throughout your career. And that's also ultimately where Marine officers find out what their specific career path is going to be. Going in, I knew I wanted to be an infantry officer, and just as luck had it, I was selected to become an infantry officer at the basic school. And then immediately following graduation, I did the 3-month arduous infantry officers course. It's one of the premier schools that the whole United States military has. And it was a fantastic, very challenging experience for me. So I graduated that 3-month course, and then I was assigned to 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. And if you know anything about Marines in the Pacific, if you've seen the show The Pacific, then 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines should be familiar. So we're following in the footsteps of legends like Eugene Sledge. So when I was there, I showed up. I was a platoon commander. I was a platoon commander for an anti-armor platoon. And we did our first deployment, which was on a ship. So Marines are expeditionary and amphibious in nature. And my very first deployment was on the USS Rushmore. And we deployed with the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit. We went to our first stop was the Arabian Gulf, where we bounced around specific countries up there, helped training and improving the capabilities of some of our partners. And then we trailed back through the South China Sea. And then at the completion of that, well, I'll back up. So during that deployment is when I really had the itch to take it to the next level, and that next level was special operations. So it was at the front of my mind as I was going through deployment. And when I came back from that first deployment, that's when I submitted my application for Marine Special Operations, also known as Marine Raiders. I submitted my application just to try out for it. Application was approved, and I attended the Marine Corps Special Operations Command's 6-week assessment and selection program. And all that is designed to do is to take individuals, assess them across a wide spectrum of characteristics, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, and ultimately that just determines this guy may be the right person to continue training and ultimately serve in a Marine Special Operations company and team. So at the end of that, I was selected. I got the invitation to continue training, but my obligation with the infantry was still there. So at that time, I was serving as an executive officer for a weapons company. So in weapons company, you have heavy machine guns, anti-armor platoons, and you have the 81 millimeter mortar sections. So I went on my second deployment, where we were based out of Okinawa, Japan. We trained on the islands, did training in the Philippines, and then I led a small training contingent with the Taiwanese Marine Corps. And I actually got promoted to captain by a Taiwanese general when I was there. So that was really the first taste that I had of something special operations-esque, leading a small team with a host nation, building a capability in a very strategic location, and really just building a personal relationship. So at the end of that deployment, my wife and I, we moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, and I attended the Marine Corps Special Operations individual training course, and that's a 10-month program that takes Marines from all backgrounds, and it levels the playing field, and at the end it creates a special operator. So the qualifications are designated by Special Operations Command, and you have core capabilities and key tasks that are required for each member of Special Operations Command to fulfill successfully and be assessed on. So the completion of that, I moved back to California, so 2 cross-country moves in a year, and I was assigned to the 1st Marine Raider Battalion. When I was there, I assumed command of a 14-man team, a Marine Special Operations team, and in that team you have about 14 Marines who go through the individual training course, and then on top of that you have key enabling support. So think intelligence personnel, communications personnel, explosive ordnance disposal personnel. Everybody plays a key role in accomplishing the mission that Marine Special Operations teams are tasked to do. So we did a 2-year, about an 18-month training cycle to prepare us for deployment, and then summer of 2017 we were deploying to the southern Philippines, and my team was tasked with essentially assisting the Filipino military in eliminating an ISIS threat in the city of Marawi, which ISIS had seized in 2017. So using all the capabilities at our disposal, we had a successful deployment. We helped the Filipinos successfully clear the city, ultimately building on our relationships that we had with the Filipino military and the Filipino nation as a whole, right? And then we returned to deployment. So at that point, that was the end of my time as a team commander. And then I assumed the role as the executive officer for the same company that I was in. Same thing, we did an 18-month training cycle, went back to the Southern Philippines. This time I was serving in the role as a deputy commander for the Special Operations Task Force down there. So in that role, we were managing teams similar to the ones that I previously deployed on, but in very disparate locations across the Southern Philippines. And they were very counterterrorism focused, essentially helping our Filipino partners reduce the threat of violent extremism and terrorism in that region, while also building and strengthening our partnership. At the end of that deployment, we returned to California, and that's when I had orders to the Pentagon in DC. So I moved back to the East Coast with my wife and daughter at that time, and started working in policy at Headquarters Marine Corps. And our focus in that role is essentially seeing existing policies based off of prior requirements that came up during the global war on terror or whatever forward deployed operationally focused unit there was, and revisiting those policies and seeing if they make sense for today's environment. About a year into that job, I got selected to be the aide for the Secretary of the Navy, and it's the role that I'm currently serving in. And in that role, I assist the Secretary in his day-to-day engagements, his trip planning, his strategic engagements. And then as the only member of the Special Operations community in the Secretariat, I also help advise on some of the Special Operations policy focused issues.
Awesome. That's some great stuff, sir. That's amazing. So you talked about how the Marines, everyone knows about like Navy SEALs and the Green Berets, Delta Force, but it seems like the Marine Raiders seem like they're like the hidden gem of the Marine Corps. Like, no one knows a lot about them, but they do some real deep and great stuff. So could you like describe some of like the missions the Marine Raiders were in, the missions are allowed to talk about, and some of the stuff that they do on like the day-to-day basis to help the country?
Sure. So I guess to describe the Marine Raiders now, I would be doing an injustice if I didn't describe the gentleman who established the legacy of the Marine Raiders in World War II. So after Pearl Harbor, there is a requirement within the Marine Corps to establish a specialized unit that can conduct long-distance direct action raids on some of the further well-protected islands in the South Pacific. And the president at the time, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, his son James Roosevelt was friends with, also a Marine, was friends with a gentleman who was in the Marine Corps and served in China with the Communist Party, helping overthrow the government. And he learned a lot of the guerrilla tactics there. And so he brought those tactics back, and he identified, hey, we have a very capable force in the Marine Corps. And in order for us to do these missions, we need to specialize and tailor that force. So with the help of his friend James Roosevelt, they established a specialized unit that spent a tremendous amount of time training, very arduous training, and selecting their personnel. And the very first operation that they went on was, I'm sure you've all heard of the USS Nautilus raid on the Makin Island. And so that really laid the framework for what the Marine Raiders are today, right? It starts with finding the right people, getting a sense of purpose, doing the right training, and then building the camaraderie, the cohesion, and the capability to conduct some of the missions that aren't typically, that typically exceed some of the capabilities and the requirements of a conventional force. So moving forward to today, you have Marine Raiders at every corner of the globe. So still operating down in the Pacific, Middle East, Africa, wherever there's a special operations footprint in those areas, you'll find Marine Raiders. Out of all of the components, we are the smallest. So there's about probably 2,500 Marine Raiders out there, but they play a critical role in the forward deployed requirements and the operational requirements of the United States.
That's awesome. And you talk about how they're looking for like the right people. What do you think the Marine Raiders look for in applicants or people Marines wishing to be Marine Raiders?
Right. So everything starts with character. You have to be the right person. If you can trust the person to your right and left, that is the foundation. And so character is foremost in the requirements. But on top of that, there has to be the intellect, there has to be the physical capability, there's got to be the grit, right? You want guys, you will be put in difficult situations, and you want individuals that are gonna find a way to power through it. They'll find the fortitude internally to not only elevate themselves but elevate those around them. And then lastly, teamwork. You got to be a team player. We've all heard the phrase that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and that rings very true, especially in special operations.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Now, I'm part of the Delaware Military Academy of Wilmington, Delaware. Go Seahawks. What advice would you give to these, not just Delaware Military Academy, but the JRC cadets, people my age looking into the military as a whole, and what advice would you give to them?
First is you'll go in as a leadership position from the guys in your academy. I'm sure a lot of you and your classmates aspire to go into the military as officers. And if you've played sports before, you've heard the phrase "brilliance in the basics." And when you're dealing with people, leadership is a people business. And one of the most fundamental rules when dealing with people is the golden rule. It's treat people how you want to be treated, and that is absolutely paramount when you're working with individuals. But on top of that, character is absolutely front and foremost with leadership. But then also you have to be a lifelong learner. You can learn something from almost anybody that you interact with. And that's what brings guys to the next level in the military. Is you have to keep an open mind. Whether the situation's good, bad, unexpected, there's always a lesson to be learned from it. And sometimes the situations that you're going through at the moment are less than ideal and disappointing. But in retrospect, there's always a lesson to be learned. So that's one piece of advice. The second is, people have a tendency to get spun up about things that are outside of their control. If you can understand and isolate things that are in your control and use your energy to affect those, and disregard some of the things that are abstract and basically so far outside of your control that it's irrelevant for you to waste burn the calories on, and that's a solid lesson as well.
Awesome. Now, I know there's a couple people in my school who are interested in being working in the Pentagon and even working with the Secretary of Navy and Secretary of Defense. Um, what qualities do most people who work in those jobs have?
You have to be a team player. And when you're working with a secretary level position, you're dealing with, not only does the Secretary of the Navy manage the Navy and the Marine Corps, but he has all of his assistant secretaries of the Navy under him as well. So at any given day, you're dealing with multiple offices, and you have to be able to work with other people towards a common goal. And so teamwork is absolutely a quality that's required. Also patience. There's the military and the secretariats are very big organizations. The Department of the Navy has 900,000 uniformed and civilian personnel in it. That's almost 1 million people. Things don't happen as fast. The Pentagon is the headquarters of the military, the Department of Defense. Things don't happen as fast when you're dealing with people of that scale. So patience, letting things develop, is a key virtue as well.
Awesome. Now, our main thing in this show is branching off and connecting people with mentors that can help them get to the career that they desire. So, who was your mentor, and what was the best lesson they taught you?
So I've had quite a few mentors going through the military, and if I could offer a piece of advice, I'd do the same as well. You'll have mentors that can benefit you in all aspects of your life. So I have mentors that I have an uncle who I view as a mentor, just based off of some of the character traits and the way that he carries himself. He no experience in the military, but some of the values that he lives his life by are that's the standard that I want to emulate. Inside the military, my first true mentor was my first company commander in special operations. His name's Steve Kiesling. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from him was just the indispensable value of maintaining a calm, cool, and collected approach, even in chaos. He was consistent throughout, whether we're drinking coffee in the office or he's consistent when we're running multiple operations. And that was reassuring for everybody that worked for him, because you knew what you were going to get, and he was approachable. He maintained his emotions, and he was a very easy person to talk to and bring issues up. And when you did that, then he'd help you get to a solution. So during that period, having such an approachable boss and one that was so measured, it allowed me to try things out. It allowed me to grow. It allowed me to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then keep raising the bar as I progressed.
Awesome. And what quality of leadership? We talked about leadership previously. What qualities of leadership do you hold most high? Like, if someone is in the military, this is the leadership quality they must have.
Trust is absolutely, in order for an organization to operate at its absolute capacity, you need trust. And that's trust. You need to trust your people, and your people need to trust you as well. Leadership, if you can picture it as a pyramid, the traditional one, with the leaders on the top and the organizations on the bottom, view that upside down. So turn that pyramid upside down. So with the leaders on the bottom, and they are serving the people under them, and whatever organization you're in order for it to reach its potential, to its max capacity, everybody has got to excel. And it's your goal to find what motivates individuals, and you want to unlock the potential inside of them, because the things that they can accomplish as a whole and individually are absolutely remarkable. And from a leadership perspective, when you see the potential being unlocked in people, and you see the physical and the emotional change in them, it's this feeling that's absolutely indescribable.
I can attest to that. I've seen that before. Some of the people that are followers of myself. Now, you had a very wealthy career, and I think you're still going. So, What was your most proudest accomplishment?
My best accomplishment was after my first deployment. My team was successful, and we successfully completed our mission. And I'll if you'll indulge me for a second, I'll share with you what my first day on deployment was like. So I showed up. We have a thing called an advance party where it's usually 2 people, just a small contingent of people that go ahead of the rest of the unit, and they go there, essentially do their turnover with the people that they're replacing, and then they give any last minute recommendations for your unit as they come out. So I went out. It was my communications sergeant, and then my senior enlisted is a dear friend of mine. So we went out. As most things happen, Murphy showed up, and the turnover didn't go as long as we had anticipated. So we met the people that we were replacing, had about a couple-hour discussion with them, and then they were gone. We initially scheduled this for a week. So that was in the middle of the night. We did our turnover. The individuals that we were replacing left country. And so I woke up the next morning with my senior enlisted, and we were having a conversation. I turned to him, I said, Mike, do you know what we're supposed to be doing right now? He said, no, but we'll figure it out. and I was like, Roger that, let's go start talking to people. So from there, we both were on the same level. We showed a little bit of vulnerability of, hey, we're in a complex environment. We need to figure something out, but this is not the script that we were training to our entire workup. So we went around, started talking to our partners, building relationships, finding gaps and problems for us to solve. And then fast forward 6 months, the city was retaken by the Filipino military, and the ISIS's capability there was significantly reduced.
Amazing. That's amazing. That's what Marines do, right? They help everyone. That's what they do. That's why I love it. Now we talked about the most positive thing. What would you say was the most challenging leadership scenario or situation that you had so far in your career?
Absolutely. I think the one that stands out to me is finding out who you are as a leader. And the situation that sticks out the most is when I was a platoon commander. I was uncomfortable with what my leadership style was, right? Because I didn't have too much time being in charge. Everything else was going through a schoolhouse with a bunch of other students that were my peers. So the first time you're really in charge of individuals, you're commanding. I had a young Marine who, it was right before he went on deployment. He had requested leave, and somehow it had gotten denied up the chain. And so he went AWOL. AWOL means absent without leave. And he was gone for a couple weeks. We were able to contact him, and we knew he was safe, but it was a complete breach of what was expected, and it was grounds for getting a non-judicial punishment. And so when this young Marine came back, I naturally was a little upset and disappointed with him. And right before we go on deployment, how could this individual do this? And so it ultimately came down to me talking with him and said, why did you do this? And he gave me an answer that floored me. He said, my mom was getting married, and I wasn't going to miss her wedding. That was a huge lesson for me, because as leaders, asking why is such an important question, and finding out why people are doing what they're doing that could change your whole perception of them. And so that one situation gave me years of understanding of the importance of asking why. And granted, it was probably one of the biggest eye-opening experiences that I had, but the lessons that I learned from that helped me for the rest of my career.
Awesome. I've always heard TED Talks and people talking about, oh, what's the why in the situation? People want to know the why. Or followers, they need to know the why they're doing this, and what's the main reason behind this order. And I think what you said pretty much summed up the gist of what I've always been taught as a leader so far. And I just have 2 more questions. So, and they're 2-parters. So it's one question that's in 2 parts. Is there any advice that you would give to someone in a leadership position from where you just started? Like, I'm a Marine captain, I'm a Marine lieutenant. I just graduated from Marine Raider School. I got my first team to lead. What advice would you give me?
Take the time to learn your people. Take the time to learn your people, learn how they tick. You don't need to be out in front of every single person. I think General Mattis said it the best. He said, I spend 10 minutes of my day coaching, or 10 minutes of my day commanding, and the rest of my time coaching. So you give your intent up front, and you let your subordinates accomplish the task. You may need to give rudder steers here and there, but what your unit, what your Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen, what they're capable of will blow your minds.
General Mattis says some great stuff. One of my favorites. One of my favorite generals. And then last question. What advice would you give to someone who desires a leadership position? I'm right out of the academy, or I'm right out of the academy, and I'm jumping, and I want to do a special operations thing, but I want to go higher. I want to be the Aide de Secretary of Navy. I want to be the Aide de Secretary of Defense. What advice would you give me?
Well, one great way to learn about leadership is to read about great leaders, and you can learn thousands of years worth of lessons in some of the timeless books that are out there. I may have sent you a couple recommendations, but one that sticks out in my mind is Once an Eagle. That book gives you parallel examples of what great leadership is and what the antithesis of that is. You have a protagonist and you have an antagonist, and their careers parallel each other all the way from when they initially join the military all the way through when they're general officers. And you see some of the decision points that they faced in their career, and ultimately it's very apparent which individual was sticking to the path that was morally correct, and the other one was more self-serving. So reading about good leaders is fundamental. It's a must. Second is you got to have balance in your life, physically, mentally, emotionally. If you want to have a long career, you need to find that balance early on, because individuals will burn themselves out going 100 miles per hour in the work section and then foot off the gas, completely stalled in the emotional section. So understanding the importance of balance early on is going to help you get the longevity and the most out of yourself inside of your career.
All right. Well, Major, thank you for coming out. Thank you for zooming in. I think we got some real great information. I can't wait to see the feedback from our listeners. Is there anything else that you want to add?
The last thing is enjoy the times that you're going through right now. Time flies by faster than any of us can truly fathom. So, and I know going through a military academy, you all are very forward thinking and you're very excited to get to the military. Well, that time is going to come. Focus on the present. Take advantage of the time that you do have, and focus on improving yourself. Help yourself reach your potential, and that's ultimately going to just set you up for success down the line.
And listeners, this was Major Kyle Rodgers. Great leader, great mentor. Totally reach out to me on any questions. Next episode, we have Major General Frank Vavala, former Adjutant General of the State of Delaware National Guard, coming in for episode 2. Stay tuned.
Take care.
Again, thanks for watching Career Connection Chats. I hope you learned something great. I hope you learned something you want to teach other people. And if you want to be on our show, please email us at careerconnectionchats@gmail.com. And if you want to ask our guest speaker your own questions, please email at the email posted below. To see more, please visit our YouTube channel and share what you've learned.